incinerator, not only is he going to have to breathe the smoke and the fumes from this facility, but you're going to bury this stuff in his backyard. This stuff over the years is going to drain down into the land. The water is going to come under the crops. But sooner or later, those people in the municipalities that are trying to get rid of this stuff are going to get it back in what they eat. If this hazardous waste facility is so safe, and it doesn't, if this hazardous waste facility is so safe and doesn't pose any health hazard, I think people in Region H would demand that item 5 be stricken from their site criteria for merely being fair about choosing a location. If it is not safe, it's not going to, if it is going to be a hazard to our health, I don't think you need to put it in a populated area at all. So I think that everyone here will agree that it's only fair that everybody in North Carolina, especially those that are generating the bulk of this hazardous waste, also be considered in the site selection criteria so that they can have it in their backyard instead of putting it on farmland where sooner or later they're going to get it back anyway. Thank you.
The next speaker on my list is Mr. Ted Futrell. Mr. Futrell.
Excuse me, I'm supposed to be playing basketball tonight. My question is more of law, not so much the rules pertaining to are there any existing North Carolina state general statutes or laws pertaining to in case there's an accident in this facility or criminal laws that apply to the management? Criminal laws that apply to the management of this facility in case of an accident severe enough to keep this thing safe, if at all possible. And if not, maybe our legislatures could enact such laws.
Thank you very much. We will be glad to try to answer all your questions in the public meeting part of the session.
Okay, I'm going to play basketball and shoot it in now.
Thank you. We will deal with that, please.
I am from Melvin. I am against this thing.
Thank you. Mr. Jim Bowerman.
Thank you for coming here tonight. We're glad to see these committees get out of Raleigh and come out and find out what's going on in our small communities. My name is Jim Bowerman. I'm chairman of the Anson County Hazardous Waste Board. I'd like to address, if I may, the third criterion of the 6 that are in the second set of the site selection. It's called 4 NCAC 18.0203 number 3, which is a location shall not be selected within 5 miles of a state boundary. I propose that the distance of 5 miles be increased to 10 miles for the following reasons. 1, 5 miles appears to be completely an arbitrary number. 2, a 10-mile limit is proposed for the distance from the Blue Ridge Parkway. Therefore, consistency as well as courtesy to our neighbor states would be a 10-mile limit from the state line. Reason number 3, if 10 miles from a state line were used, then over 99% of the incineration ash pollution fallout would be kept in North Carolina, removing nearly all health risks to neighboring states from the operations of incineration. Reason number 4, the facility may be used ultimately in the future exclusively for North Carolina generators, since we don't know what's going to happen years down the line. And it should be centrally located in the North Carolina generators to reduce transportation risks and improve economics. Reason number 5, placing a hazardous waste facility near a state border would improve the economics for out-of-state shippers while costing North Carolina industry more money for transportation. Reason number 6, if we kept our hazardous waste facilities more than 10 miles from our borders, then we would have reason to expect similar courtesy from our neighboring states. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Conley.
I have other things that I'd like to address at a later time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I would like to speak in both segments of your hearing, and would you prefer that I just do the criteria now and speak on my other remarks later, or do it all at one time?
Would you please, sir? If you would, we would appreciate it.
Okay. Let me say that I share the other speakers' concern about this population density matter. This waste was generated in high-density areas, and if it's safe to be generated there, there's no problem in my mind why it should be safe to be stored there. Let me preface my remarks by saying, as you folks well know, I was not in the General Assembly when the low-level waste compact was voted on, but I was in the General Assembly when this hazardous waste agreement was voted on. I voted against it. I introduced amendments against it and did everything I can to see that it didn't happen. Not because I had anything against you folks at all, but I do have one criteria that I think you should seriously consider and that you should add to your list. I don't think that the hazardous waste treatment facility should be located within 100 miles of a low-level radioactive waste facility. And I think you ought to take that consideration back and study it very closely and very thoroughly. The state of North Carolina from Murphy's Manual is some 450 miles. From North Carolina to Virginia, there's some 200 miles. There would be no reason whatsoever to saddle some 2 or 1 rural county with 2 of these situations that they have nothing to do with generators.
Thank you, Senator. The next speaker on my list is Mrs. Billy Elmore. Ms. Elmore?
No, sir, I'm planning to speak in the second half of the meeting.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Elmore.
Dr. Turner, speak up. Jim McCaskill. Which one is that? I'm Jim McCaskill, a resident of Richmond County, a member of the county site evaluation committee for the low-level radioactive waste site. I'd like to address the criteria number 5, just to make sure that you all understand our objection to that, involving the low-density areas. I would like to ask Ms. Odom, I'm not sure, I get down to the fine city of Wagram every once in a while, and I hadn't checked the census lately, but as best I could tell, that one rule has excluded the localities of all of the members of the committee, except possibly Hazardous. And so I just want to make sure that you're aware that that one rule has excluded your communities from the siting of this hazardous waste. To have you consider that I believe that it's morally wrong for you to locate this in the rural areas of North Carolina, Richmond County included. And the reason I believe that is that if you look at the benefits of the urban areas where large industries are and where the majority of the waste is generated, these people enjoy the benefits of higher incomes. They have fine houses. They have excellent schools by virtue of larger tax bases. They have excellent recreational facilities for their children and families. They have a lot of benefits of things that people in the rural areas do not have. The question is, what do we have in rural areas that we hold precious that makes us live here? And it's the rural areas itself. And I just really think that it is morally wrong for you to take this facility because people in urban areas don't want to deal with the waste that they generate from the high-paying jobs and the industries located there, or you to take the waste and now locate it in the rural areas where we don't have these benefits.
Thank you, Mr. Castelli. Mr. Jim McCaskill.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, ladies and gentlemen, I too would like to make a comment about the criteria that deals with 500 persons per square mile. Just to reiterate the fact that the waste is generated in densities much greater than that, tenfold times greater than that, and yet it doesn't seem to bother anyone. Why should the disposal of what's being generated there bother anyone? Especially so if we're dealing with something that's safe, something that's not going to impact detrimentally either the population or the environment, as we're told, whether we believe that or not. I would like to read something into the record and share it with you. 2 comments. This is taken from a study that was done at East Carolina University for the Regional Waste Management Task Force, and it was submitted in March of 1989. It's the impact study on site selection for the low-level waste facility, which we're also dealing with, and very definitely we understand the difference of these 2, but I don't think we think any more of either one. One paragraph that I'd like to share with you that they reported back to the task force, and we all understand the detrimental impacts, long-term impacts of both leakage from a hazardous waste treatment facility or a low-level radioactive waste treatment facility, and what that can do to the rural environment, the farming community, and the people in general for many, many generations. But another concern that we have, Richmond County has struggled for many, many years to improve itself economically. We have diligently put forth efforts to attract industry, to create jobs, even though we've been selective with the attraction of what types of industry in order to protect the environment that we have here. And one concern that was expressed by this subcommittee is the possible, and I quote, "The main concern of the subcommittee is the possible psychological impact of the facility siting upon the potential industrial prospects and commercial interests. The subcommittee felt that the locating of the facility in the immediate area would only tend to reinforce the image of the area as an economic stepchild and thus discourage accelerated economic investment. Well, we've been told by the low-level radioactive waste folks that it's going to attract all kind of industry and it won't have an impact. But this study says differently. It goes on to say, the subcommittee concluded that a stigma would be attached to locating such a facility in the area. If this occurred, it would be difficult to counter in future industrial recruiting efforts. In other words, it would put us at a distinct disadvantage. Even though many road improvements are projected for the area 10 years from today, that could very much improve the economic benefits to Richmond County. One or both, or either of these facilities could negate all of that potential improvement that would be there with transportation. If this occurred, it would be difficult to counter. They go on to say the subcommittee's contention is that even with the most educated assurances, most industrial prospects would be discouraged. This would be especially true for certain industries that would have products damaged by any association with low-level radioactive waste. And I might add hazardous waste, which is not part of that quote, rightly or wrongly. But one thing they do say in relation to the 500 is what I'm getting to. In talking about closing one of these facilities 20 years from today, it says an area that presently has a large, diversified economic base will be most able to cope with the changes that occur after a disposal site is abandoned. And they point out that it would be very detrimental to an area our size